The ACT Party has announced a new policy that would see a tightening of the welfare system, essentially making it harder to stay on long-term benefits if you're able to work. Under its proposed policy, people applying for health-related benefits would have to be assessed by an MSD-approved independent doctor rather than relying solely on their own GP, and existing recipients would be reassessed over time using stricter criteria. ACT also wants job seeker recipients who remain on the benefit for more than 4 months to have their payments loaded onto an electronic payment card that can only be used for essentials like groceries, rent, power, transport, health, and childcare. The card would block spending on alcohol, tobacco, gambling, and cash withdrawals. David Seymour says the changes are about restoring personal responsibility, encouraging people back into work, and ensuring taxpayer-funded benefits are spent on essential living costs. However, one beneficiary advocate disagrees and says it shows a lack of compassion for people who need help. Kay Brereton joins me now. Kay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Leah. Thank you for having me.
No, look, thank you for being available. Firstly, can you tell us just a little bit about what you do and how long you've been doing it?
I've been a benefit advocate for about 20 years, and what we do is people come into us because they're not sure what working income is asking for, or how to apply for benefit, or how the system works, or why their benefit is stopped, or even how the heck they're supposed to survive on the small amount that benefit is. And we work with them to answer their questions, to help them interact with work and income in a positive and useful way, and to see if there is any more entitlement. Back when I started doing this work, a lot of people had some more money they could apply for. Quite often it was around their disability costs. These days it's very tight, and people aren't getting enough money as it is. People miss out on food, basically, because that's the discretionary thing that people can't afford once
So
they've
I
paid all
was
their
I was going to ask you that. That was my next question. What has changed over the years that you've seen?
What has changed? I think it's just the cost of living has got so much higher. The job market has
Mm,
got very tight.
mm.
Um, and there seems to be a reluctance by employers to take what they see as a risk on people who are on benefit, especially if they've been on benefit for a while. And we all know youth unemployment is really high, and I think that's kind of the same risk adversity from employers. So there's kind of a sweet spot. When you've got some experience and you're between 30 and 50, it's easier, but not easy, to find a job. Once you're over 50 or while you're young, you're not seen as a very attractive proposition by employers.
Mm.
So it is hard for those people. And I think that what not everyone understands is how demoralizing it is when you apply and you apply and you apply and you don't even hear back, let alone getting rejection. You don't even hear back.
Mm.
It really knocks people's self-confidence.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot, not just for people on a benefit, but people that are trying to work have gone from a job to jobs who have been working in and then they just nowadays no one gets back to anybody. It's
Yeah.
very tough out there. Kay, you have described this ex-welfare policy as lacking compassion. Let's go through some of the things. In 10 years, the number of people on a health or disability job seeker benefit has nearly doubled to 96,852, and another 96,000 are on the supported living payment. Does that suggest something in the system needs to change?
Maybe it does, but maybe it's not in the welfare system. Maybe it's the health system. Why are people ending up being unable to work for such long periods of time? Are they not getting the treatment they need? Is the treatment they need not helping them? I mean, look at the length of time that people have to wait for simple operations like hip and knee replacements. While you need your hip or knee replaced, there's a lot of jobs you can't do. So I actually see quite a few people who are in their 50s and older whose bodies are starting to break a bit, especially if they've been doing physical work. And to retrain at that age, there's disincentives in the student allowance system. You get less hours once you're over 40, or less student allowance eligibility once you're over 40. So retraining is hard, and so for a lot of people who've been doing physical work, that is a problem. We've also got a mental health crisis, and I know that the ACT Party talked about there being a rising number of people on benefits for mental health reasons. That part of that is there isn't the treatment and there isn't the support, and there's a real misunderstanding out there about what it means to have a mental health condition. So once again, employers feel really risk averse. What if this person turns out to be an ex-murderer? Well, they probably aren't. They're probably just someone who is depressed and anxious, and they need a workplace that's supportive. If they find a workplace that's got bullying and stuff like that, it's going to make life worse for them. And I see quite a bit of that. That seems to be increasing at the moment too.
The number of job seeker recipients has risen by about 73% in the past 10 years, and the costs now exceed the policy budget and twice the medicines budget. Do taxpayers have the right to expect tighter checks on who qualifies?
I think it's fair enough that taxpayers be satisfied that it's the right people getting the right benefit at the right time.
Yeah.
I don't know that this policy of sending everyone to a designated doctor, that's what they're called at the moment, is the answer.
I wanted to talk to you about that because that's so. Yeah, so people applying for health-related benefits would have to be, this is one of the policy proposals, would have to be assessed by an MSD-approved independent doctor. That's what you're saying, that we were about to talk about. Yeah. So what concerns you about that, Kay?
Well, one of the things that concerns me is I'm in the working income region that covers Marlborough, Nelson, West Coast and Tasman. In that region, we have two at the moment, working income, supposedly independent health practitioners who can assess people. And the workload is greater than two people, let alone the geographical coverage. So there's a way in which it's just not practical unless MSD can recruit a lot more doctors. There's a real cost to it. At the moment, people go and see their GP. It costs them somewhere between $20 and $60 because a lot of people, when they're first going on benefit, they're still paying those high rates at their health practitioner. And their health practitioner knows them. And they know their history and they know about them. They complete a medical certificate for work and income, telling work and income about work capacity and potential for improvement. To spend another $270 on a designated doctor and on a report from the host doctor, to be told basically the same thing doesn't seem like a good spend of taxpayer money to me.
Is that how much you think it would cost, Kay, to go and see an approved independent doctor?
So at the moment, the fees are set at $180 plus GST an hour, and the doctor sees the patient, or sometimes by video, interviews the patient, and then they have to write up a report. That's going to take at least an hour, if not two. And there's also the designated doctor can't do much without getting information from the person's actual GP. So the GP gets $90 plus GST for writing a report for the designated doctor to set out all the health condition information. On the medical certificate that work and income receives that the doctor does, there's only room for 3 medical conditions. Lots of the people we see have a lot more than 3.